On a Monday morning in October, on the first day of unprocessed eating, coffee drips into the coffee pot. I slice strawberries and a banana into a yellow bowl. A cup of Greek yogurt, a douse of mesquite honey, and a handful of flaxseed follow. I'm sitting in front of my yellow bowl of fruit and yogurt, coffee in hand, a book spread open on the table, but before it occurs to me that my flaxseed is blueberry flavored. I reach back into the fridge and see that it is actually golden roasted milled flaxseed with blueberries, which means that it is milled roasted flaxseed, blueberries, cornstarch, maltodextrin, cane sugar, natural flavors, and soy lecithin. I stare at my bowl of fruit and maltodextrin. Shit. Maltodextrin begins life as a starch, as a chain of carbohydrates in a potato or rice kernel, but after its polymers are parceled into pieces and rearranged by enzymes, it becomes a sticky white powder that is mildly sweet and not at all perishable. That blueberry flaxseed escaped last night's hurried refrigerator inspection for processed food, which has now been quarantined to the bottom shelf next to the Diet Coke, is because it is flaxseed, the spinach of breakfast confections. I stare at the bowl, and then I eat it. Greek yogurt and strawberries are not cheap, but mostly I am hungry, and not eating this bountiful dish seems like a cranky way to start the week. I am alone in my apartment, and I am not going to waste perfectly good food simply because I went on an internet binge last night and stumbled into Andrew Wilder's blog, Eating Rules. Andrew Wilder is a food blogger who gives up processed food for a month every year. And by midnight on a Sunday in mid-October of 2011, when I am 3 glasses of wine deep, 3,587 people have joined Wilder for October Unprocessed. I decide that I should be one of them. I type my name in an entry form, and with an anticlimactic submit, I am committed to living unprocessed during the last 2 weeks of October. It is a haphazard commitment, but why not? I subdivide my cabinets, quarantine my fridge, polish off the last glass of wine, and go to bed buzzing with the excitement of a new project. And then I went to Safeway. I spent an hour in the condiment aisle, reading ingredient labels on mustard and muttering, "What the F is natural flavor?" I lost an afternoon in Whole Foods and then another in Trader Joe's. My sister got used to my midday calls. "Hey, Katz, how is brown sugar made?" and would dutifully forego her PhD dissertation work to Google me through my dilemma. I ventured to Latin markets, to Asian markets, and, of course, to the farmer's market. In the aisles of grocery stores and the clutter of specialty shops, I had to decide, what is processed? Andrew Wilder defines unprocessed food as any food that could be made by a reasonably skilled person in a home kitchen using whole ingredients. The operative words here are could be made. In Wilder's world of unprocessed, to enjoy beer, I didn't need to buy barley to brew beer or enzymes to curdle mozzarella to enjoy cheese, so long as, theoretically, it could be done in my own kitchen. I could grind up wheat into flour, but short of storming the University of Arizona chemistry lab, I couldn't separate the wheat germ and bran from the endosperm and then enrich the mess with calcium, iron, vitamin B, and folic acid to create fluffy white flour. If I wanted to make table sugar at home, I'd need a centrifuge and a bleach and a few declumping agents, while honey, on the other hand, required only figuring out how to collect the plant nectar that bees regurgitate onto honeycombs. I learned about process, and I read about chemistry, and I dithered in grocery stores, and then finally I was defeated by chocolate. Every retail chocolate bar I found contained not only processed cane sugar, but also soy lecithin, a non-soluble phospholipid chemically extracted from soybean oil. Soy lecithin is an emulsifier. Emulsifiers smooth things over. Though it's derived from soybean oil, which comes from the plant soy, by the time it is churned through the tall silos and steel pipes of the processing plant, soy lecithin is less of a food than a substance. I realize my chocolate conundrum only when I'm in the freezer aisle of Trader Joe's, holding every chocolate bar they sell. It's either soy lecithin and cane sugar or no chocolate for 2 weeks, and I had not planned to give up chocolate for 2 weeks. It is 2:55, and I have class at 3:30, and I have no backup plan for chocolate. So the bar goes into my cart, and I walk to the register, muttering justifications for these few milligrams of soy lecithin and cane sugar, really just a drop in a bucket of possible processed foods. But by the time I'm driving home, I wonder, what really is the difference between an organic 75% cacao chocolate bar and a box of Cocoa Puffs? I swirled around the decisions of 2 weeks, talked to myself in supermarkets, and drove my sister nuts, and then I kept eating. Change moves more slowly than hunger does, and once I had figured out how to tackle breakfast unprocessed, lunch came quickly rumbling around. And then, suddenly, it was Halloween, and I was standing in a cactus costume, munching on M&Ms and Fritos. It wasn't, as I expected, a relief to eat whatever I wanted again. I stopped spending Saturday afternoons browsing supermarkets like I used to browse bookstores, but the questions unearthed by unprocessed nagged at me. Was eating unprocessed just some sort of bohemian ideal for a food-conscious upper class? What about the cost of whole foods? Was it really that much more than packaged? Maybe it was, but did that cost differential manifest itself somewhere else, in healthcare and pharmaceuticals? What about health? Health of mind and body? And what about weight? Was eating unprocessed some kind of diet, or was it maybe an anti-diet? And what about food and gender, about a woman's role in the household, about the promise of convenience that enabled women to work all day and put dinner on the table? What about shelf life and food security, about cans of soup and the food drives that allow the goodwill of a Christmas season to feed a hungry family for a year? And what about foods that appear to be whole foods? The piles of perfect tomatoes stacked at Safeway in the middle of winter and the pesticide-coated blackberries shipped from Chile. Were these simply a different kind of processed? What, finally, did it mean to be an unprocessed eater in a processed world? I heard Michael Pollan interviewed on NPR years ago when he was tooling around promoting his bestseller, In Defense of Food. The host of the show, Peter Sagal, introduces him as, quote, the most well-known authority on food and food economics working today. Chit-chat ensues. Sagal asks Pollan, so if you ever want to eat a cheeseburger, do you have to go hide somewhere? Pollan laughs. Shortly after I got to Berkeley, he says, I was in Berkeley Bowl, a local supermarket which has wonderful fresh produce, grass-fed beef. What was Michael Pollan buying at the Berkeley Bowl? Fruity Pebbles, his son Isaac's Saturday morning treat. So I was reaching for a box of Fruity Pebbles, he says, and somebody tapped on my shoulder. And it was this tall, bearded graduate student, and he said, whispering, I'm watching Michael Pollan shop for groceries. That's the problem with the whole foods, local foods, real foods narrative. When you are 10 years old, Fruity Pebbles are fun to eat on Saturday mornings. When you are 25, Fritos are fun to eat on Saturday nights. With food, it's not just easy to look the other way, to ignore the ingredient label. It is, in fact, delicious to do so. Food manufacturers are good at what they do, and processed foods are consistent and convenient and comforting. On a Saturday morning, Michael Pollan is just a father who'd rather relax than explain to a 10-year-old why the high-fructose corn syrup in his processed cereal is causing his liver to overproduce insulin. I love Cheddar Chex-Mix as much as the next 7-Eleven patron, but I also believe that nothing impacts our bodies more than the choices we make about food. And by choices, I mean the choice of a Wednesday evening at 8 p.m., when I am tired and in 3 minutes a can of soup will be warm and filling and tasty. I am short on time, I am shorter on money, and, like everyone else, I make choices about food 3 times a day, every day. I believe that food in becomes health out, but in the hustle of day-to-day life, health competes with the demands of work and family and the allure of convenience. But I remember something that Mr. Rogers used to say, back when I was spending my Saturday mornings eating Fruity Pebbles in front of the TV. I remember him standing there in his funny cardigan, explaining how to make crayons or sneakers or fortune cookies, and saying, there is a difference between things people make and things that are made. There is a difference between foods people make and foods that are made, and it is fundamental to the relationships our bodies maintain with the world.